Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jody Ann Quarry.
Brought to you by
Horizon, a new loan product from Access Financial Services.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, living in a war zone.
Last night was one of the scariest times because while sleeping, one of the explosions woke me up.
Stories of Jamaicans in the Middle East. Absolute tragedy, Manchester mother being sought in drowning of 2-month-old baby. Superficial, Prime Minister pushes back against opposition's NHT drawdown critique. In the business report, Sagicor Group Jamaica regains earnings strength in 2025. And later in sports, brilliant bunny, reggae girl striker scores double in World Cup qualifying win.
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Hey, what up, one?
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What a guan?
What a guan?
That a guan, pa.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a one! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
That's a guan, pa. What a guan?
CVM News at 7 Tuesday, brought to you by
KFC value menu. As you thinking chicken, get the chicken box combo for just $680.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7 for Tuesday, March 3, 2026. I'm Nika Lewis. Thanks for joining us. We begin with latest on epic fury. The U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict World Health Organization director the World Health Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus says 3 paramedics have been killed and 6 injured while working to recover people injured by explosions in southern Lebanon, where Israel has been mounting continuous strikes. In the meantime, the Israeli military says that it has begun another wave of extensive strikes against Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio insists President Trump made the decision to attack Iran because he was presented with what he called, quote, a unique opportunity for the mission to be successful. He says the second wave of attacks will be stronger than the first. With more, here's Al Jazeera.
As Secretary of State Rubio said, the second phase will be tougher than the first. Look, I think the target deck, as we used to talk about it in the military, started off with leadership targets, worked its way down to missile targets, ballistic missile defense. It now worked its way down to the Navy to keep the Persian Gulf open. But there are a lot more targets in that deck that I believe the Americans will prosecute. One thing that hasn't been attacked is the nuclear facilities for a second time, but also it doesn't appear to me that any of the ground force elements have been attacked either their headquarters, their training areas, or their troops. So it is still what we would call a target-rich environment inside of Iran.
I want to bring our viewers a little bit more breaking news. Qatari authorities say they've busted 2 sleeper cells operating for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They say that 10 suspects have since been arrested.
In the meantime, bombs are awaking Jamaicans from their sleep in parts of the Middle East as the war intensifies. Carolyn Brown spoke with Jamaicans in Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
We're used to gunshots, but we're not used to missiles, you know? That was just one of the stuff that we were saying. We're trying to make light of the situation.
The Jamaican spirit alive indeed in Abu Dhabi as Sabrina Nemhard Martin, who has been living in the Middle East for the past 7 years teaching grade 1 students, seriously describes one of her scariest moments since the airstrikes began last weekend, Monday, March 2, sometime after 2 a.m.
While sleeping, you know, one of the explosion woke me up.
Her daughter was also home.
She was a mess. She had to get from her room and came into my room to stay with me because she was really trembling. I had to hug her, and it's my adult daughter. It was some powerful explosions, and not only that, immediately after those explosions, then you get a message on your phone, and the messages are so loud.
Emergency alert due to the current situation, potential missile threats. Seek immediate shelter in the closest secure building. Steer away from windows, doors, and open areas. Await for further instructions. Her first experience, however, was at church on Saturday. A notification came in on her phone, she says, but she ignored it.
But I decided I was not going to allow it to deter me from listening to the preacher, so I closed my phone.
She was among the 70 congregants who stayed back at church having lunch, and they all heard and experienced the trauma.
You know, they're targeting the U.S. base. There's a base that is close to where my church is. So we heard some explosion and we were really frightened. Then the pastor was there and he said, you know what, let's pray.
In that moment, a biblical revelation.
You know not the hour nor the minutes when he will come. And it could have been that moment. You know, because it was not anything nobody was expecting. We were there for probably about 3 hours. The explosions were on and off a bit. And after it died down, we were advised to quickly go home. And that we did.
Meanwhile, halfway between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, Lennox James, a representative of the Middle East diaspora, while not in the hot zones, has been tracking the 750 to 1,000 Jamaicans between 6 countries. People have been working from home, emergency plans are in place, and with more interception of missiles overnight, there's been gradual opening of the airspace.
Both airports were open partially last night to release some tourists who were stranded.
There's a lot of confidence in the government and the military response, so after 18 years in Dubai, Lennox still feels fairly settled. Carolyn Brown, CVM News.
So aside from Jamaicans living, working or visiting the Middle East, why should we care about a war between Israel and Iran? Amoy Harriet has this explainer.
This evening, we're breaking down why the escalating tensions between the United States and Iran matter, not just for the Middle East, but for Jamaica and the global economy. Firstly, for context, Iran is located in Western Asia, often referred to as the Middle East, bordering the Persian Gulf and sitting directly along one of the most important oil routes in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, here's why that matters. About 20% of the world's oil supply is shipped through that narrow channel between Iran and Oman. That's about some 20 million barrels per day of oil, leaving Gulf producers like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, and the United Arab Emirates to markets around the world. Plus, that route also facilitates the transportation of LNG supplies that power Europe. The ongoing strikes now disrupt that shipping route, and the threat alone pushed global prices up. For countries like Jamaica that import oil, that means higher gasoline prices, rising electricity costs, and more expensive goods overall. But it doesn't stop there. Another critical choke point is the Bab el-Mandeb, a narrow passage connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Now, it's essential for ships heading toward Europe and the Suez Canal. So if both Bab el-Mandeb and the Strait of Hormuz are affected at the same time, you're looking at a serious squeeze on global energy and shipping routes. Oil tankers may have to reroute, so insurance costs would spike, shipping delays would increase, prices rise everywhere. And when oil prices rise, transportation, food production, manufacturing, just about everything becomes more expensive. So while the conflict may seem far from the Caribbean, its economic shockwaves can reach our shores very quickly.
So brace for an increase in the price of gas. Economists are sounding the alarm tonight as global markets tumble, with oil and fuel prices reacting sharply to the escalating conflict between the United States and Iran. Major financial indices have plunged and energy prices are surging amid fears of serious disruptions to global oil supply. Akeem Arit reports.
Operation Epic Fury. The US, Israel and Iran war in the Middle East is now sending shockwaves through the global economy. Financial markets have reacted sharply and energy prices are climbing as investors brace for further instability. Jamaicans are now being urged to brace for volatility at the pumps.
I would have implored Jamaicans to start refueling on a daily basis to kind of avoid or be a little bit more proactive because of what's coming. The President of the United States would have stated that they're expecting to prolong this war for 4 weeks, so we might in for a long ride.
Economist Janelle McEwan warns that if the conflict drags on for more than a month or two, local markets will experience deeper shocks.
We trade all of our fuel. So when the Strait of Hormuz closed, which would have declared since evening, what happened is that approximately 20 million barrels of oil that passes through daily will now stop flowing. So the global market will react to that. And what will happen is that you will see the prices of oil start to trade higher. And what that means is that people will start to be more difficult for us to have access to oil. And oftentimes when these situations happen, we see the adjustment in the fuel market in a couple of days.
The economist adds that prolonged conflict could carry other long-term consequences, including slower economic growth and reduced consumer spending, particularly for small island economies like Jamaica.
We have to be a unified in terms of Latin America and the Caribbean now, because we have to see what is it that we have and have a comparative advantage in, and what we can trade with and revisit trade negotiations with countries like Guyana, for example, and countries that supply us with a lot of crude oil. So if these continue to follow, what we may see is that, for example, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, because these countries would have been dragged in the war because the United States have military bases in these countries.
Akeem Aret, CVM News.
Lots more to come right after the break.
employers. Once a month, you have the power to shape Jamaica's future. By paying your hard 3% contribution, you're not just contributing, you're investing in people, in skills, in our economy. Your hard contribution trains working-age Jamaicans, aligns programs with workforce needs, and secures our future. That's not just contribution, it's transformation. Contribute to heart and to your future.
Chicken, mega deal, super chicken, mega deal.
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous bone combo for just $640. KFC.
Do it for your best life. Go check your HIV status. So keep your life trending, no pretending. Me I tell yourself do it for you, do it for you. Every time you are link with a condom. Coulda Ozzy, coulda wife, coulda be a random. Condom connect and protect your profile. Be your own fan, do it for your best life. Do it for your best life. Don't put yourself at risk. Condom connect every time. Do it for your best life.
Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jody Ann Quarry.
Brought to you by Horizon, a new loan product from Access Financial Services.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Still in the local news, a Caribbean sustainable development expert is calling for stronger focus on renewable energy sources amid the global fallout from ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Professor Anthony Clayton argues the focus on renewables should not be allowed to fade even after the current war ends. Giovanni Dennis reports.
As these strikes and counter-strikes increase, so will the cost of fuel and just about everything else. Professor Emeritus of Caribbean Sustainable Development Anthony Clayton says the increased price of fuel caused by epic fury, the United States, Israel and Iranian conflict highlights the importance of renewable energy sources for Jamaica. Gas prices have increased sharply due to the current conflict in the Middle East. But Professor Clayton says interest in renewable energy needs to be sustained.
What we tend to do is we panic about the transition to renewables every time there's an event like this, and every time the price of oil spikes. And then after the crisis, the sense of urgency seems to disappear again. And this is no basis for an energy policy. We really need a long-term, sustained approach if we're going to make a transition to a much more energy-efficient economy and one based on renewables.
He says Denmark is an example of one country that started its transition to renewable energy in the 1970s after the 1973 oil crisis. More than 50% of Denmark's energy needs now comes from wind and solar.
And they have become a major energy exporter to the rest of Europe. Their energy grid is now about 10 times more stable than the energy supply in the United States because they have built in efficiency and renewables at every opportunity. That's what we should have been doing. Of course, we should respond to the crisis. Of course we must. But really, the only way to get there is to be consistent and to push in the same direction for as long as it takes.
In the meantime, Jamaica has set a target of having 50% of its energy supply coming from renewable energy by 2030. Professor Clayton says it's an ambitious target.
If we get even close to that, I think that would be really quite remarkable. That's about where Denmark is, but Denmark took about 50 years to get there. So if we can really achieve that by 2030, that would be nothing short of really remarkable, quite astonishing.
However, he says, with the cost of technology having fallen significantly, renewable energy has become much more accessible.
We've been arguing for years that with sufficient investment in renewable energy technology, they should be price competitive. And the transition should be driven by the economics of the situation. Well, now that is actually true. And in about 30 countries in the world now, renewable energy technology is in fact the cheapest source of electricity.
Professor Clayton was speaking on CVM's News at noon. Giovanni Dennis, CVM News.
Shock has again gripped the nation following the tragic death of an infant. The mother of a 2-month-old baby is this evening being sought by police in Manchester after she reportedly drowned him in a bucket of water Tuesday afternoon. The details may be triggering, so viewer discretion is advised. Signs of life now disrupted. The visuals indicate a chore, the placement of containers, buckets with water, and clothes pinned on a line outside the incomplete structure. Then inside, an infant, silent. Inside a bucket of water, baby Mateo Forbes. Not a chore, a bundle of joy, born December 20, 2025, gone. Locals fear the mother of the baby, said to be of unsound mind, completed the act at the family's home in Top Hill, Manchester this morning. Emotions are high.
I feel upset. I cried. I don't know how to express it, how I feel about it. So when I hear, I call the baby father, but I didn't get him. And I call the guy who come, the uncle, his nephew, and him come here and call me and say, if me hear that he died. And I said, no, nothing like that. And when me come out of the gate and come up, I see one crowd here. And then me come out there and then say, yes, the baby died. So he turned down in a pool of water, in a bucket of water.
Locals told our news team the 20-year-old mother has since fled. The child's grandfather, Jeffrey Forbes, also called Lion, appeared struck by the horror as he made his way to the house. Ms. Thomas admits she too is jolted by the tragedy.
We never expect it because up to last night, he and his boyfriend was talking and he said that he's going to bush to draw 5 bags of carrot to send him go doing here because them are go christen the baby this month. So he might go look the money if he send him go doing here.
Was it her only child?
Yes, it's our only child.
Left with no clear answer as to what pushed her over the edge Tuesday, Thomas reflects.
From the baby born, I share care for him, so I don't know what come over her this morning.
In terms of family, she's from here. What's her?
Yes, she's from here.
And what's her family support like?
She support him. My grandmother support him. Every morning he go over there and he bear the baby over there. And he bear the baby. So whenever I look for that from her.
So you think it's just unfortunate?
Yes, it's unfortunate.
Up to news time, there were no updates on the mother's whereabouts. Welcome to Tech Pulse. Tonight we explore wartime tech, latest trends and machinations impacting the globe. Let's take a peek. This week in Tech Pulse, we're talking war tech and innovations. Much has shifted since the past decade. Among the innovations likely to steal the show in 2026 is the AI and machinery fueling the war between the US, Iran, and Israel. We'll take a new look at the tripartite showdown in the Middle East and how armies are entering beast and stealth modes using tech. First stop, the US Army backing Israel. The US remains the world's leading military power with the largest defense budget of $895 billion in 2025-2026.
If you ever wonder about the latest technologies that the U.S. Army is working on, look no further. Recently, the footage of the Army's Project Convergence was made public. Now, even though no real capabilities were disclosed, we see things like javelin launchers mounted on an autonomous vehicle that's also equipped with a machine gun and a smoke machine. This appears to be a refueling drone that flies a fuel hose to an unknown distance away. And finally, this looks like the American version of the Ukrainian Baba Yaga heavy bomber drone that can drop grenades from the sky. This is all just a tiny glimpse into how the U.S. Army is transforming itself in preparation for the future of warfare.
Iran's tech is not to be overlooked. It focuses on regional dominance through a large army, missile technology and proxy forces, but holds lower global military ranking compared to the US, China, or North Korea, the military giants.
Missiles form the backbone of Iran's deterrent strategy.
The objective is to disrupt the tempo of a U.S.-ing campaign and raise its cost, not to fight a single decisive battle. The first branch is ballistic missiles aimed at striking bases. Systems such as the Fateh 110, Fateh 313, Zolfagar, and Desfoul have ranges from several hundred to over 1,000 kilometers, sufficient to target U.S. bases in Iraq, Qatar, or the United Arab Emirates. At longer ranges, the Shahab 3, Sajal 2, and Khorramshahr expand regional deterrence capability. The purpose of these systems is not absolute precision, but to strike airfields, ammunition depots, and ports. Targets that force an opponent to disperse defenses.
China, though not directly linked to this ongoing war, ranks number 1 or 2 globally, competing with Russia. It has the world's largest navy by ship count, a rapidly growing nuclear arsenal, and a major focus on AI and cyber warfare. It recently reminded the world why it must not be toyed with, unveiling new military tech at its recent Victory Day parade.
We're going to start with the flashiest thing that they rolled out, and that is a truck-mounted directed energy weapon system called the LY-1. Get it? Flashiest because it's a laser. Get it? Whatever. Anyways, this thing is massive. According to Chinese state media, LY-1 is designed for air and missile defense and could eventually be used aboard warships. The US equivalent might be the Helios, which is a 60 to 100 kilowatt laser now being tested on Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. For ground-based systems, though, the closest US counterpart is probably the DEM SHORAD, which is a 50 kilowatt laser mounted on a Stryker vehicle intended for, as the name implies, short-range air defense. We've seen China rely on silo-launched ICBMs like the DF-5, which has been around since the 80s, but still had a new version unveiled at the parade, the DF-5C, and more recently the DF-41. But the DF-61 appears to be a lighter, more modern design. This was also the first time that China has publicly displayed all 3 legs of its nuclear triad, which are ground, sea, and air. That included road-mobile ICBMs like the DF-61, a submarine-launched missile like the JL-3 deployed in 2023, but it was first shown in this parade, and what appears to be a new air-launched ballistic missile dubbed the JL-1. That's a rare move. For decades, China maintained mostly a relatively minimal nuclear force focused on second strike deterrence.
Meanwhile, the war continues online. Only this week we learned AI may have been exploited by hackers. Anthropic's Claude Code assistant was reportedly abused in a cyber incident against the Mexican government systems. That's according to Israeli cybersecurity startup Gambit Security reports. As part of the attack, 10 Mexican government bodies and a financial institution were compromised, beginning with the country's tax authority in late December 2025. We'll get the experts to weigh in next week. But that's it for Tech Pulse, and remember, the future is now. Admitting this cannot continue forever, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has fired back at his critics and the opposition PNP for recent remarks about the government's continued withdrawal of funds from the National Housing Trust NHT to plug other areas of the budget. Speaking at the opening of the Chester Creek Townhouse development in Portmore today, Dr. Holness warned Jamaicans against what he called superficial political arguments that do not elevate the country's understanding of history. He shares, if the funds were not being taken from the NHT, the other options would include removing services or increasing taxes. The latest withdrawal of some $11.4 billion by the Holness administration, he notes as among the defensible use of the funds.
The government isn't taking the resources from the NHT for, reasons that are not of national importance and concern. And yes, we acknowledge that these funds are contributed on the basis that they will be used for housing. And this cannot continue forever. The government has to use these resources to strengthen our economic base so that we don't have to take the resources out of the NHT. And so when these matters arise within the public domain, the public has to understand, yes, there are the surface political arguments which political parties are constrained to make to offer the alternative position.
Jody and Quarry now joins us for a look at Lead Story Prime. Thanks, Nika. We're discussing tonight what Jamaica has to do in a time where we're looking at a fragmented world. From CARICOM having discussions that might not have everybody aligned to now watching what's going on in Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba. How do we make it safely, especially as the United States under President Trump has changed everything? Thanks so much, Jody. Must see TV. And so with that, we take a break. More to come on CVM News at 7 in a moment.
See value menu as you're thinking chicken. Get the famous meal combo for just $640.
The time by KFC is 7.
With more power backup to reduce outages and satellite backup for greater mobile stability. You can even make regular calls using Wi-Fi. Welcome to our new era of connectivity, and we're not stopping there. This is
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music you stop playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't put it down. Shine your lights
Chicken, mega deal, super chicken, mega deal.
The KFC value menu. As you're thinking chicken, get the famous meal combo for just $640.
Welcome back. It's now time for the Business Report with Joel Crosskill.
Lots to go through with you in the business report today. Notwithstanding the significant headwinds posed by Hurricane Melissa, Sagicor Group Jamaica continued to deliver solid financial performance and maintain sound liquidity. The group's strong reserves, robust risk and governance frameworks, as well as diverse revenue base, supported long-term value creation in a challenging environment, according to President and CEO Christopher Zaka.
Sagicor Group Jamaica is pleased to announce its financial results for the year ended 2025, recording net profit attributable to stockholders of $16.22 billion. This exceptional performance represents a 75% increase over the $9.24 billion earned in the previous year.
The results were driven by strong growth across the group's primary business lines, alongside a notable recovery in the asset portfolio. Zaka added that the balance between people and performance will continue to define the group's approach as it enters the new financial year.
Core earnings, which provide a clear measure of the underlying performance of Sagicor Group Jamaica, by excluding market-related impacts on insurance assets and liabilities, as well as other non-recurring items, also showed material improvement year over year. This underscores the group's ongoing focus on operational excellence and sustainable value creation. At the close of 2025, Sagicor Group Jamaica almost doubled its earnings per share, attributable in 2024. Our ROE, our return on equity, also saw a substantial increase, rising to 15% compared to 9% in the prior year, reflecting the group's commitment to driving shareholder value and delivering strong financial returns.
Long-term insurance delivered a net profit of $9.32 billion compared to 2024's $6.07 billion.
The segment continues to experience meaningful insurance revenue growth, benefiting from the release of contractual service margin CSM of $6.34 billion versus 2024 $5.9 billion. And the generation of new business CSM of $7.94 billion versus $6.42 billion in 2024.
Short-term insurance reported improved revenue of $37.87 billion relative to 2024's $34.77 billion.
Recording 136% increase in net profit to $3.38 billion versus $1.43 billion last year.
Group health and life products, meanwhile, generated new business sales of $1.1 billion.
Primarily from the corporate client portfolio, underscoring the segment's continued growth. The increase in general insurance claims arising from Hurricane Melissa was largely offset by reinsurance recoveries, consistent with disciplined underwriting and sound risk management.
The commercial banking segment produced net profits of $4.01 billion, an improvement over 2024's $3.81 billion.
It recorded a 10% increase in revenue supported by higher net interest income and larger transaction volumes on its card payments portfolios.
The loan portfolios continue to grow, with $36.97 billion in new loans written, contributing to a $2.01 billion increase in interest income.
Deposits and other funding liabilities grew by $22.06 billion versus 2024 $14.35 billion.
The investment banking segment recorded net profit of $1.67 billion compared to the prior year's $0.89 billion.
Net investment income of $4.55 billion increased by 50% over last year, primarily due to net trading income of $1.26 billion.
The group president and CEO notes that Sagicor Group Jamaica's responsibility extended beyond financial metrics.
Resilience is built into how the group operates. We absorbed significant external shocks, supported our clients and communities in times of real hardship, and still delivered one of the strongest performances in our history. This is a result of consistent, sound leadership and prudent risk management. We move forward with a focus on continued sustainable growth to ensure that Sagicor remains a pillar of stability for the country we serve.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crossgill.
Up next, to sports with Jordan Fort. Stay with us.
Chicken, mega deal, super chicken, mega deal.
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous bone combo for just $640. KFC.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.